This week is extra exciting because we're going to talk about everything newgle from Google 2 as we talk about their launch night and event. So let's go ahead together as a people and check it out. And welcome to another sensational Saturday. This is Mike, and this is Mike Text It Out, and yes, we're doing everything newgle from Google 2, which is a terrible name, and I'm not going to name the video that this time, but the last time they had an event, I named it that, and the event was real boring, and I did a whole sketch at the beginning, but we're not doing that today, because you know what? The event this time wasn't boring. It was weird. It was really weird. It started off normal, and then some of the camera angles, and then some of the people's faces, it was just real, I don't know, there was something that was off about it. I can't put my finger on it, but let's talk about everything that they announced at this event. So the first thing is the new Google Chromecast, which yes, it looks really weird, it looks like some taffy, but it's gonna go behind the TV for the most part, so I guess it really doesn't matter. I don't know why they chose such a unique design, but yeah, it's unique. It looks like something, but the exciting thing is they're finally doing what people wanted with the Chromecast, which is put an actual, OS up there that you can use with the remote. And it's going to be using Google TV instead of Android TV. I guess is their new TV OS. And from what they showed of it, the clip kind of reminded me of a combination of like Apple TV and Roku as far as their operating systems. Like it looks nicer than Roku's, but not as nice as Apple's layout. I mean, arguably the remote might be better than the Apple TV remote, but again, as long as it has physical buttons, that's not really that hard to beat. At first, I liked the Apple TV remote, honestly, but now that I've had it for like, a few years, I'm like, this thing is kind of annoying. But that's besides the point. It looks like a good value for $50. I mean, it's still going to do the Chromecast stuff. We can still cast stuff to it, but now it's going to have a full operating system, kind of bringing another option to the TV and a streaming stick box family thing. Systems. Machines. So they did say it's not going to be running Android TV as like Google TV now. So I'm wondering if that's like a rebranding across the whole thing. Like they're just done with Android TV altogether. Or if it's just like they're going to have two operating systems and they're still going to support Android TV, which I doubt. I think they're just probably going to move forward with Google TV. It seems like they've kind of been wanting to get away from the Android branding and kind of clean everything up and let Android just be like the phone thing and kind of separate that, which makes sense. Even if it is Android based, there's no reason to use the Android branding on everything. I'd have to see how it performs, but it seems like a lot better than, just having the stuff where you can just cast stuff from your phone. So we'll see how it is. The design, it still looks like some taffy. So after that, they moved to some weird rap segment that lasted way too long, and I was just like, if this wasn't like an ad, it might be kind of cool, but it was weird. So we're gonna skip over the weird rap thing and we're gonna go right to Nest Audio. It's basically like $100 Google Nest speaker. It's like a little mini speaker. Obviously, like they said during the presentation, they can't really give a sample of the audio because that's gonna depend on the device that we're listening through. So like if you don't have decent speakers, the demo's not gonna work. So what they did was very intelligent. They got producer Mark Ronson. You remember him? He's the guy that did that cover of Valerie with Amy Winehouse. So they got him up there, and I'm pretty sure he was drunk. Like I don't know what was going on there, but I was like, man, this guy is just like, I don't know. I feel like he was like melting into whatever seat that he was in. And he played the song for like 2 seconds. He played Valerie for like 2 seconds. He was like, yeah, I like to get right beside the speaker. That's how I listen to it at home. My bottle of Chardonnay. I'm like, hold on. Okay, he didn't say that, but he did say that that's how I listen to it at home part, but the Chardonnay part he didn't say. But still, I was like, what is going on with this dude? And then they had the Android version of Farnsworth Bentley that was doing the interview on the other end, and I was like, there's just something that's not adding up here. It's like the dude was like, I have you now, and soon I will have all of your energy, and then Mark Ronson was like, go ahead, energy gone. And I was like, what is happening with this demo? It was crazy. But yeah, anyway, getting to the actual product. I kind of like the design. It's really small and minimal. Like there's not much to say about it. They have different colors. It's like a little speaker that has the fabric front. I do like Google in general, their current design trim with their Nest speakers. It's pretty good. And if it sounds good for $100, I can see that being a compelling like whole home audio solution. If you want to just, you know, have music all over the house, as long as it sounds good for $100. And then again, at $100, you're also competing with the IKEA Symphonic. I can never say it right. I did an unboxing video on it a while ago. And that speaker, I can confirm, does sound really good. And it's a bigger speaker, so I don't know if it's going to be able to compete with that on the low end, because the Nest one seemed pretty small. But yeah, it's going to be competing against those $100 speakers, and those can be networked together as well with other Sonos products. So that's what Google's kind of competing against at that price point. But until people get them in their hands, it's going to be difficult to see, you know, what the audio quality actually is. I think one compelling thing is if you have a Nest Max, like the big speaker that they offer, and then you just want some companion speakers for that, then obviously that's a cheap way in without buying the like Google Home Mini, which obviously that speaker is not the strongest. It's really made for like vocals, and that's it at a short range. So yeah, having this $100 speaker makes a lot of sense. Apple, where's my HomePod Mini? You already got the big one. You got the Mega. I need the Mini. All right. But literally, I am waiting on Apple to make some kind of HomePod announcement, because having that, you know, slightly lower end $100 speaker to kind of increase their lineup and kind of flesh it out and give people more options, I think is great. Because like, if you don't care that much about audio and you just want to hear music, you can get the Nest Minis and put those throughout your house, or you can get the Max and get these speakers, or you can get a bunch of Maxes. Like, they kind of have their whole line worked out. Apple, I want my Mini now. Okay, so let's move on to the main event, and that is the Google Pixel 4a 5G. Ha 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 ha. You thought I was gonna say the 5. But no, they went over the 4G first, and by went over I meant like, hey, it exists, it's gonna be $500. Like, I feel like they didn't even bother alluding to like the Pixel 5 stuff this year. They're like, oh, y'all know about the leaks. We're not even gonna pretend. So yeah, they're like, it's gonna have the same camera and processor, cameras, because the front facing camera is the same too, and processor as the Pixel 5. And of course it's gonna have 5G, and it's only gonna be $500. Now to me, that Pixel 4a 5G is a compelling package, because that's $500. You're pretty much getting the same processor. It's kind of the same thing as Apple did with the SE, except in some ways it's a little bit better because you're still getting a more modern design. It's a little bit more expensive than the SE. It's like $100 more, I believe. But, you know, 5G, it's a newer design. Processor is probably still not going to be as good as the iPhone SE, let's be honest about it. But it's still, you know, a flagship processor, $500 phone. Not a lot to complain about with that. The Pixel 5, here we go, Pixel 5. Finally, Google did a design that's not stupid. Since around that 2016, 2017 era, when we started to move into that, let's get rid of the forehead on our phones, Google has just struggled to get rid of the forehead. Remember what was it, the Pixel 3 XL that had the notch, and then they had the glitch where the notch was just like on multiple parts of the screen? It was bad. All right, then the Pixel 4, they're like, we're not even gonna play with no notch this time. We're gonna put a big forehead up there. We're gonna do radar sensing. Forehead gonna be huge. And I was like, what are they doing with this forehead up here? Why you got all this unnecessary forehead space? I understand they wanted to do like the face scan thing, like an advanced type of face scan like the iPhone does. And the technology seemed really good, but it was one of those things that nobody really cared about. And then they also had like some gesture controls. And whenever they do something stupid like gesture controls on the phone, I'm like, look, it's a device you're already holding in your hand. Do you really need, like, are you that lazy where you're like, I don't even feel like touching this to scroll through my photos and just, like, are you really, like, really, is that a thing that people want at a device that you're already holding in your hand? I don't think so. So I applaud Google this year for getting rid of the stupid gimmicks and just getting back to the basics and delivering a phone for $700. It looks good. It finally has that flagship look. They just did the hole punch camera, boom, all screen, rear fingerprint sensor, simple. And then of course it's Google, so they're going to deliver some of the best cameras in the game. $700. I mean, that's, to me, finally, this can compete with flagship phones. Of course, it has wireless charging. They also are introducing reverse wireless charging this year. So, you know, you can charge your Pixel Buds on the back of the phone. Finally, we're doing it. We're doing it big. Reverse wireless charging. And honestly, I don't think that most people are going to care about not having the face unlock. Really, right now, it's just competing against the iPhone 11, which it still has a better screen than the iPhone 11. Of course, there's a rumored Apple event this month. Sorry, I keep forgetting it's October already. So we'll have to see what their lineup looks like. But $700, you know, for a flagship phone that has great cameras, that's hard to beat. And then they talked about some of the other features that they're bringing out. So of course it's going to have 5G. It also has 8 gigs of RAM, which they pointed out because the 4A 5G only has 6 gigs of RAM. So that's one of the things that makes it different. One of the things I thought was cool was they have this whole screen sharing thing, obviously a software feature, but like if you're on a video call, you know, similar to FaceTime, but the Android-y type FaceTime, if you're on a video call, you can go ahead and share like a video, especially right now with, you know, all the stuff going on. And honestly, even without the stuff going on, there's been a lot of times where I've been on like FaceTime and I'm like talking about a video and I'm kind of wishing that we could watch it together, but it's just not convenient to do so. So, you know, I might send a link to the video. That's kind of cool though. That sounds cool. Like you and your friend can watch a video, you know, look at a website or whatever together and kind of have that experience. So just having that built into the phone as an OS feature is great. And I really hope Apple steals it. The new phone is going to be water resistant. They finally did an ultra wide camera. If you remember last year, they were like, yeah, ultra wide's fun, but telephoto is, I'm like, shut up. Nobody cares about telephoto. Give me the ultra wide. So there, they did it. They did the ultra wide this year. And honestly, like I use my ultra wide camera a lot. When they introduced it on the iPhone, I was like, you know, this cool, but now I actually do use it quite a bit. So it's just a nice camera to have. You need to capture like a big area and maybe you just don't have a lot of space to do it. You got the ultra wide, you pop. You got the ultra wide, you just pop right in there. Pop in the ultra wide, get your big wide family shot at the barbecue. Well, you can't right now because, you know, everybody would probably, it'd be risky. But, you know, just socially distanced barbecue 6 feet away from everybody, family shot, the ultra wide, yes, it is important. It's important. It's bringing the night mode, like basically, you know, where it brightens up the photo at night and makes it look a lot brighter than it actually is. You know, all the flagship carriers are doing it now, but it's bringing it to the front facing camera, which is funny because there's been times recently where it's been dark and I've been trying to take a picture at night just as a goof to send to my friends. I don't even know why I'm talking about this. It got weird. Anyway, I was like, you know, this would be cool if they had night mode in the front facing camera. Google did it first. Apple, go, you know what I'm going to say? Go on and steal that. Go on and steal it because it's about time. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, think about, you know, if you're out at night or something like that and you're trying to take a picture with your friend, and a lot of phones don't have a front facing flash. I mean, they can flash the screen, but in my experience, that usually kind of sucks. So having that night mode, I mean, it's going to be grainy, obviously, depending on how dark it is. But just having that to kind of brighten up the selfie photos makes a lot of sense. It's like one of those, like, that's great that they can do that now. Features, because it's a feature that a lot of people probably use. So good on Google for bringing that out. They promised the 3 years of software updates. Google has been one of the Android manufacturers from the get-go, even before when they were doing the Nexus phones that had, you know, consistent software updates for their phones. So that's something that you just don't have to really worry about if you buy a Google phone. So that's great. You know, they mentioned that. The other thing is they're going to have some kind of software features to kind of pause apps in the background to save batteries, kind of what the iPhone does automatically. Another thing I thought was cool was there's like a hold for me thing. So like if you call somebody and you're on hold, you can have Google Assistant hold for you and it'll kind of like call you back once you're off a hold. So that's kind of a good feature to have built in. I mean, I don't really call a lot of places anyway, where I have to be on hold for a long time, but it definitely is frustrating, you know, having to be on hold for a long time and having your phone do that. That's a great idea. So it's kind of crazy what Google's able to do with their Google Assistant technology. But overall, this was a lot better than their conference last year, even though like it still had this awkward feel to it that was like, they were trying not to be robotic, but they were. I don't know how to place it. It was not the strongest when it came to the acting skills and the atmosphere. It was weird. So one of the other things I wanted to cover was there's really not a huge difference between the 4A and the 5, other than the 2 gigs of RAM. The 5, of course, has the water resistance and the wireless charging, whereas the 4A doesn't. But realistically, if you don't care about any of those features, you could just save $200 because the cameras are exactly the same, the processor is the same. The screen on the 5 is a little bit better, but again, not a big deal. So that was one thing. 2, there's been a whole thing about the price for the Pixel 5 that's came up recently. Apparently, it's cheaper in some other countries because the 5G modem that they're offering in those countries doesn't do millimeter wave, which is like the super fast 5G, but it's very limited as far as availability and range. And there's very few places that have it in the first place, and Verizon apparently is the only carrier in the US that even has millimeter wave right now. The whole point is they're saying like if they just would have done, if they wouldn't have put such an expensive 5G chip in there, they probably could have chipped another $100 out the phone. I'm gonna argue and say like the phone was already $700 and the 4A is $500. I doubt that they would have bought the price that close to the 4A. If anything, they probably would have just added another feature and kept the price around $700, because generally that's what their phones have been anyway, in the US at least, like $700 to $800. So I don't see them, or I wouldn't see them changing the price either way, regardless of what 5G chip they put in there. But yeah, it's a good point. Like, yeah, technically you're paying for future-proof technology because of the 5G chip. But again, the Pixel phone is one of the best mid-range options anyway, so I'm not going to complain too much about the price. And generally, you can find them a little bit cheaper, like a few months after they come out. So if you do want to save some money, you could always just wait anyway. But that's it. That was everything Newgle from Google this time. Let me know what you think. Are you excited to see these new Pixel phones out there? Does anybody use a Pixel phone? I know one person that uses a 3A, one of my friends, but that's it. Like, I literally don't know anybody else that uses an actual Pixel. Anyway, comment and let me know. And I'm bringing it to a conclusion today. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and always do at least 2 things at the same time. Peace. And I definitely have a video planned for Tuesday that I know what it is right now. I definitely know what it is. I don't know what it is, but I'm crazy, so I'll figure something out. Subscribe. Stick around. I'll be back.